Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on September the 5th, 2023. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, getting some superpowers and going to hell.
Caffeine Rage, and I think I'm already there.
Touche. On today's show...
Red state.
Me too. On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing some games that we have played. Japan is getting Gaming Cup Noodle designed for gamers, which contains caffeine and more. Embracer Group shuts down the Saints Row developer Volition. Valve is coming for Dota 2's Smurf accounts and the main accounts behind them. And new, tell Steam if your game supports DualShock or DualSense controllers. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Yeah, maybe I should editorialize that one a little bit more. But to be fair, you did copy and paste it.
I did copy and paste it. But yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know why I did. I don't know why I said that twice. Don't mind me. I'm tired.
Is it a good evening?
It's pretty good evening, honestly. I had a pretty solid first day back after a very long weekend. I had my psych conference I went to Thursday and Friday, and then had some time in Nashville over the weekend. I did some car repair. That was pretty cool.
Finally, de-deered your car?
Oh no, that's still at the Ford dealership waiting on the parts for the warranty repair on the transmission. I haven't had that car for 6 weeks, and I might not have it for 6 more weeks. Who knows? No, so we have 2 Ford Focuses. Yeah, we have 2. And the other one, the wiring on the that goes to the trunk, for like the tail lights and brake lights and the little trunk release latch got cut. Like what I think happened was that something got in there up against the harness, and when we slammed the trunk shut, it just like cut it. And because I know how to solder and own a soldering iron and everything, I just soldered it back together. I got out there, my kid helped me hold everything in place. A car trunk at an awkward angle is really hard to solder, actually, so it is definitely not my best work, but it does work, so it saved me, I don't know, $250 on car repair.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more, I don't know what a mechanic would have charged me, but that was fun. And also I am now a certified anxiety specialist, which doesn't really mean anything, just that I completed this training. Learned some interesting facts about how...
Now, tell me, does it make you anxious to know that you're certified?
No, it does not. I know that you're joking. Like, for the most part, I don't suffer from anxiety that people wouldn't consider normal. You know, everybody experiences anxiety from time to time. Big situations or tense situations, maybe.
Or situations intense.
Yes. But, I don't have an anxiety disorder. Now, depression, I got that in spades. I feel sad all the time, man. I mean, I joke about it to cope, but, like, I actually do struggle with some pretty serious depression issues. You and I have talked about that from time to time. For the most part...
then I'll make you feel better by capturing a spaceship.
Yeah. For the most part, between, the therapies I've had over the years and a good support system, I can...
And drugs.
Yeah, although I don't take drugs for that, but I can more or less handle it, but I still have bad times. But anyways, yeah. Had a good conference. Learned a lot about how LGBT people, in particular, are affected by anxiety, living in red states, and also post-COVID. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious on its face. Like, I'm not surprised to know that LGBTQ people are more anxious living in a red state, but some of the specific statistics and unique presentations and things, like, it was interesting. I learned a lot. So, what about you? What have you been up to? How have you been?
I've been alright. Been trying to wade through all the Starfield news because, hey, it's Starfield Day. Everybody's going absolutely batshit over this game.
Yep.
Ugh.
You've played it a smidgen. We're not going to talk about it this week. Unless, I guess you could if you wanted to. But
I played it enough to get the ship, which they give you a spaceship in like 10 minutes.
Spaceship.
All right.
Have you ever seen the Lego Movie?
No.
Okay, well that's what me screaming spaceship was about. Don't mind me.
And yeah, I've already had like cognitive dissonance with some of the stories. Like, how do you know this? Because I didn't. I said I didn't see anything. That I blacked out. Yeah, it's Bethesda storytelling through and through. I made a choice. Choice didn't matter. You're going through anyway.
Yeah.
I said that I don't want to go with the the random explorer that just shows up that says, "Okay, well you're going with me." Don't care. You're going with them anyway, right?
Yeah. I would have played it for the same amount of time you did if I had known that it was releasing early. Like, there was the countdown. I saw the countdown, but for some reason my countdown showed the wrong time.
Maybe you didn't refresh the countdown.
Possibly. I mean,
like you said, you hadn't restarted in a while, so
no, my PC had been on for at least 5 days.
Yeah, so maybe it like cached the page on Game Pass.
Yeah.
But for Game Pass, it released at 8 o'clock, about an hour before we start recording. So,
yeah.
It's very possible that, it was just cached. And, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, a majority of the time I spent, it was, looking around trying to figure out the settings because I'm like a couple steps below the minimum on the graphics card and a few steps above on the processor, and trying to just dial in there and let it compile shaders because that's a thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And also marvel at Bethesda's been using the same goddamn UI for like 20 years now, and it sucks just as much.
Yep. I mean,
it's the Skyrim UI all over again.
I messaged you about this the other day, that there was a modder who, for the like early release version, because if you bought like the special whatever, you could play it. Since Friday?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, how that there was already a modder that had released a UI fix that people were really, really pleased with.
Yeah, because they do the same thing with in this as they did Skyrim, where like half the screen is taken up by the 3D model of the object you're looking at. And while neat and all, it's pointless.
Yeah. There have been a few games that have done, I guess you could say, neat gimmicks with that, where like you can look at them and interact them. But after the neatness wears off, it just I don't understand it.
I mean, Skyrim, it used that for one puzzle and one dungeon that I can remember.
Yeah, with the claw.
Where you had to look at like the back of it to get a code or something.
Yep, to get the solution of the tile puzzle. And
that was the only time I remember them making use of that. So I'm imagining it's probably going to be the same here, if not, just a holdover from the engine.
Yeah, if it's not just a cosmetic thing only, which it might be.
Yeah, like one of the things I picked up was a magnet that looks like the Buckyballs, that I don't think is legal to sell in the US anymore.
Yeah.
And it just is a cube of orbs, and it's just like, why does this need to be a 3D model? I mean, why does it need to be a 3D model in the UI,
I'm sure we'll have more to say about this in the near future. We haven't decided, but you suggested maybe we do it as a Game Club game. But I mean, I'm going to play it this week and this weekend.
Let's see how it runs on your computer first, because you're like right at the cusp on the requirements.
Yeah, I think it's going to run fine. Like, I hear you, and I'm going to check it out and like make sure. But I really think it'll run fine. Like, we were starting to have this conversation a little bit, and like I couldn't find any concrete information in the 30 minutes we were talking before starting recording. But like, I'm curious what their actual target like resolution and like graphics settings are, because 10. I still use two 1080p monitors, and only one of them for gaming, and the other one's my secondary monitor that I do stuff on. So it's not like I'm pushing like what would that be, 31, no, 1920, 3840 by 1080 monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I'm doing that, So, and 1080p is a very old resolution at this point, and I don't mind to set my frame rate to 60. I can limit it to 60. I don't have to push it to 144. So, I think it'll be fine. But who knows? I mean, my PC is still stronger than a modern gaming console, and if it'll run fine on gaming consoles, it'll run fine on my PC.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that every place you look at the minimum specs and recommended specs, it's all regurgitating the same thing on the tech sheet, but it doesn't say what the resolution is, right?
Yeah, they never say what the resolution or target frame rate are. So I do meet the minimum spec for the GPU. Technically, my processor is older, but I'm running it with a slight overclock, so it should be fine. And I've got enough RAM. I've got fast enough RAM. I've got it installed on my SSD. Like, I think it'll be
it's
fine.
taking up like half my C drive because right.
Yeah, I just shuffle some things around. I have like 200 phantom gigs on my C drive that I can't identify what's taking them up. I'm thinking it's like cloud storage and like Windows like bloat, but before I I
know Gamers Nexus did a big chart of Starfield with GPUs and CPUs. So I need to go look at in depth on that one.
I like how we've talked about Starfield for 5-6 minutes, and I haven't played, and you've only barely played.
We've played. I've played for about as long as we've talked about it, and that's mostly because the characters walk slow.
Yeah. So we'll come back to this in a week or two. Even if it's just have a bare minimum conversation, because we did decide to do some game club on it. But I mean, I think it will warrant like a basic discussion anyways of like, does this game run? How? Because I mean, like I said, I do have the minimum hardware specs. So it's like, I have a GTX 1070 Ti. I've got an i7 4790K, which is overclocked. And then I've got 32.
See, I'm also a little bit on the fortunate side where I have an AMD machine.
Yeah. So, but then I've got 32 gigs of RAM that is slow. Like it's DDR3, and I've pushed it to 2000 something megahertz. I can't remember off the top of my head what the DDR3 range is for that, which is, bottom of the barrel for DDR4, but like I never have problems with it.
Yeah, it looks like there's a mega thread on the Starfield subreddit going with people giving their specs and what their frame rate is, so might be something to check out.
2133 megahertz is what my RAM is clocked at, which is blazing fast for DDR3. If you've got DDR4, then that's like bottom of the barrel. But I have never had a single problem running any game I've ever tried to play on this machine unless the game was broken. So, I mean, eventually it will get overshadowed, but that's one of the reasons why that I keep saying, well, yeah, I'll upgrade my PC this year or maybe next year, and then I never do because I don't have to and it's not broken. But anyways, do you want to go talk about some other games that we played?
Can.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first or?
You can, or I can go first since I have 3 and you've got 1. Like at least 2 of mine are going to be pretty short.
Okay, well, you can go first then.
Okay, so first on my list is a game by the name of Ixion. Ixion is a sci-fi survival city builder game. A whole bunch of this type of game popped up after, at least as near as I can tell, Frostpunk. And the point of this game, and like all of this is within like the first hour to 2 hours of the game, and like also it's in like the blurb. You are the manager of a space station for this big space corporation, and you're going to be leading the way to colonizing the solar system. And then there is a massive calamity that results in the near destruction of the human race. And so you have to set out to find a new solar system for humanity to colonize and inhabit. And you do so aboard the ship called the Tycoon. The game is called Ixion, but the space station / spaceship that you have is called the Tycoon. I have mixed feelings about this game. For the most part, I really like it. The parts where it like sticks for me, though, they stick hard. But let's start with the positives first. The game is gorgeous, which really surprised me. Like, not that I thought that it would look bad, but they really, really put the time and effort into designing a very near, because in the timeline this is like 2050 or something like that when it takes place, so this is like relatively near future. So it feels like it could be near future for everything except for like the piece of sci-fi tech that enables faster than light travel that they discover and are using. But it feels very near future tech. The designs are excellent. They got some really good voice acting. The score is beautiful, and it has several different tracks that really never get old. At least in the time that I've played so far, there's kind of an industrial. It's very orchestral, but there's kind of one that feels industrial when you're working inside your spaceship, designing and planning your layout and managing your people. There's one that's much more sort of grand whenever you're on the solar system map and you're doing stuff there. There's one that is very... I said grand already. Maybe one that feels elegant for space and grand for a couple of cutscenes that happen. It's a very good soundtrack that strikes all the right vibes for what you're doing. So very, very surprised by it. I mean, there is a story. Like, the whole thing is there is a story. There are multiple chapters. Like I said, the beginning of the game, there's this calamity and you're on an adventure to colonize space and rebuild humanity. And there are specific chapters that you go through, objectives that you're trying to reach to progress from, initially around our solar system and then beyond, going out into the wider reaches of space. There are exploration mechanics. You have various small craft that support your main station. There are mining ships, transport ships, and then exploration and science ships. And so mining ships mine, you send out probes or your science ships to explore. They find resources. The mining ships go mine them. The transports will bring them back and then can also ferry resources out to objectives that you can find with your exploration and science ships. So, you come across a derelict space station. It gives you information about the station, what's going on, what your people discover, and then various paths, sort of choose your own adventure paths that you can follow. Some of them are a little more risky, some of them less so. And if you make the right choices, you find out even more information and can have an easier time with things that you might discover later in the solar system. And you might need to transport resources out to do something like, repair an automated manufacturing facility that you find. That's something that happens, and you can choose to, strip it for any resources you can find. You can send some stuff out there and a team to rebuild the facility, and then that gives you a different kind of bonus, additional resources, maybe science. It's like, oh, you learn how this machine works. Like, this is like an advanced machine. Where did it come from? Who built it? Aliens. No, not aliens. At least I don't think so. I haven't found any aliens yet. So if aliens exist in this universe, I haven't discovered them yet. But anyways, so, there are these multiple progression paths that you can find to learn a lot more about what happened, the history of the company that you worked for, sort of the major players, the other various large companies and world governments, and the stories that they left behind that propel you forward to the next chapter of the story, and so on and so forth. The management is, what's the right way to say it? It's straightforward and interesting and complex without being too complicated. Everything fits together nicely. Sometimes I have seen with city builders or these other types of city management or country management games where that they can really sort of overwork the plumbing. They can make it needlessly complicated for no reason. And it's very straightforward. There's a very clean, logical progression for things. There are the few pieces that you really need to interact together. The production of higher level electronics components, for example, is one of the most intricate things that exists that I have unlocked so far in the tech tree. And even that's relatively easy to set up and straightforward to manage. You've got a lot of basic resources that they use very intelligently to convey a multitude of things. So, they keep it simple without it being simplistic, I guess, is maybe a better way to say it. You have multiple resources that you have to manage, but it's all stuff that you would expect for this type of game. You have to manage your power input and output, through various means, solar panels, nuclear power, etc., that you can get as you progress through the game. Batteries for if you are overdrawing for something temporarily. And you have to manage that. You have to manage water, although water only has to be managed for certain manufacturing processes. The game is very clear up front to tell you a few things, like, oh yeah, we've got these water recycling systems. Like we can, we have to worry more about growing food than it is managing water for our people. So water is mostly for nuclear power, growing food. So that's the water management. Power water, you get your various building materials, with steel being the most important one. And that's the one that frustrates me the most. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then colonists, rather cryopods of colonists. You discover a bunch of these in the first chapter that you have to manage and store. And until farther than I am in the game, that's the only way to get new people. So if your people die in accidents, either on away missions, or if they're industrial accidents and they die, there's no baby making. At least not that I've seen so far. I think it's like they're saying, like, we have to conserve our resources. Like, we cannot make new children right now. And even if you could make new children, the time scale that it operates on is very small. I have played for 6 hours, and only not even a whole year has passed within the game from the time frame of my city or my space station. There's some shenanigans that happen with time due to faster than light travel, but the relative time that is experienced by my crew has not even been a whole year. So they're replenishing via children is not something that the game encourages, at least at this point. So all of that is very good. The systems are really, really well designed. They make sense. You can manage them all fairly well. You have to maintain citizen happiness. So you have to feed them. You have to provide them entertainment. And you have to provide them... You can choose to provide them with propaganda, which is extremely useful. As in real life, propaganda, really useful for maintaining a population, keeping them complacent and in the dark about the stark reality of your situation. So far, I haven't seen a downside of propaganda, other than it's more difficult to do certain initiatives. You get like a government functioning relatively early in the game, and then you can do things like various initiatives that can help your resources, different conservation things, but they might make the people upset. Or, you can focus on getting workers out of cryopods as opposed to civilians, or, whatever. And so, these things hurt you or harm you or help you or harm you in various ways and can make people upset or can make them more happy. And propaganda is one of them. You can like do propaganda, and that just slows down how quickly you can do policy initiatives, which I don't understand why that's the case, but there doesn't seem to be any other drawback to propaganda. So it's like, yes, propaganda is double propaganda as much as possible. Ultimately, what you're trying to do, other than finish the story, is prevent your population from mutinying against you, dying, or the space station falling apart. And the game, this is the part that I really am frustrated with, and I'm thinking about restarting on the easier difficulty, because it never feels like you make any progress. Even though I'm making story progress, I am expanding into the various sections of the space station. As you go, you can repair and unlock sections of the station to expand for, more population housing and storage and growing food and, et cetera, et cetera. And you can start to like specialize your sectors as you go, which is really useful for doing things like managing power and waste and all of that jazz. But it never feels like I can make any progress, because as you go through the game, there are certain events that happen that provide permanent negative population sort of happiness or satisfaction levels, which drives them towards mutiny. If they're unhappy, they eventually get to the point where they will mutiny against you and you lose the game. So there are things that happen that permanently make them unhappy, and so far I haven't found anything that permanently makes them happy to balance that out. And then there are things that permanently increase the amount of maintenance that you have to perform on your ship. And some of that makes sense. Opening additional sections, having more industry, it makes sense that you would need to do more maintenance. And that's fine. I don't mind that. But there are these other events that do permanently impose negative effects to your ongoing maintenance of your ship, meaning that you have to always be using steel. Steel is what you use for maintenance of your ship. So you will always be using more steel, and it's very difficult to stockpile steel. And I wouldn't be as upset about this if there were other building materials that you needed. But the most used building material for making new structures inside your ship is steel. You occasionally need some of the other things, advanced electronics, or what the game just calls mechanical parts or whatever. But by and large, you need 10 times more steel than anything else to build new structures inside your station, perform station upgrades, and you constantly are burning through steel for ship maintenance. And it makes it feels like you never make any progress. And I kind of get the idea of like this being like a survival city builder game. Like there do need to be those things like gnawing at you, but it's extremely like as a gameplay mechanic, I don't find that to be challenging. I find it frustrating and disheartening. Like if much earlier in the game, because there are some things like with food production, pretty quickly you get different options in how you can make food. You can, for example, harvest like really simple organisms that don't require any or very much water input. Insect farms, mushrooms, which you use your waste products to farm these mushrooms. But they are extremely space inefficient. They produce enough food for you, but you need a lot of these facilities. So they take up a lot of space, they take up a lot of power, they take up a lot of workers. But then early on, you get farms that you can use, that you can spend water on, which there's a couple of things you need to be able to, harvest ice from space, refine or, make water out of it, purify it. But the resource chain to do that is much smaller than needing all of these farms, insect farms to feed your population. There's no shortcut to more steel that I've found so far. And I'm through almost the entire research tree for like basic, for like new research stuff. And then kind of all that's left are upgrades to your structures. But they're very tiny percent increment updates, 1%, 2%, 5%. Upgrades to your efficiency. So unless there's something buried in like the final layer of the tech tree, It's like you need 1 to 2 dedicated mining ships for iron, 1 to 2 dedicated transport ships to bring iron back to your ship, and every time you open a new section of the ship, you have to build a new iron smelter facility and keep it running at all times. And that doesn't feel like good progression. It just gets frustrating, which kind of sucks. But the difficulty of the game, like, I'm just playing on normal difficulty. There's like easy mode or story mode, which like reduces that, how much ongoing maintenance you have to do on your ship, and the negative effects of the ongoing, sort of things that makes your population angry or sad. Those are reduced. And I think the reduced level should be the normal, and there should be an easy mode that turns it down even farther. And the normal mode should be hard, and then the hard difficulty, like it turns those things up. More ship maintenance, more accidents, your people are more upset. And then like the final difficulty mode is like it's called like impossible or something, and it like cranks those up even more. So I've played 5 or 6 hours. I'm in chapter 3. I think I could get back to where I'm at a lot faster now that I know what I'm doing. And I'm seriously considering restarting on the easy difficulty because I do want to see the story through. I do want to like do all of the exploration and everything. Like all of the rest of the mechanics are compelling, but I feel like I'm spending so much of my time micromanaging like iron production so that my spaceship doesn't fall apart every 3 seconds. So if it had customization options for being able to customize the difficulty, that would be great. I would love that. And as far as I can tell, it doesn't have that. So, I like the game. I just wish that it wasn't so tedious, if that makes sense. So I'm giving this one
very damning, huh?
Yeah. I'm giving this one a 1 thumbs up instead of 2 thumbs up. I think if you are the sort of person that really likes this kind of thing, like that particular aspect of it, or you're just like smarter than me or better at like micromanaging this kind of stuff than me, it might not be as bad. But I just want to like have my people be happy and explore the solar system and find all the cool science bits.
I mean, I just did a little bit of searching, and it looks like if you want to cheat to your heart's content, the save file is in plain text, so you can just edit.
Well, I might do that. I like cheating.
So, do you want me to jump in, or do you want to do another one?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so the second half of related games, kinda, sorta, in concept, but not really. Last time, I talked about essentially a 80s simulator of being a kid in the 80s, only in Japan. This time, it's my childhood. Sorta. Ultimate NES Remix, sorry. It is a compilation of 16 old Nintendo Entertainment System games, kind of remixed and mashed around. And it's played WarioWare style-ish, where the games are split into various challenges. And as you progress through each one, you unlock more and more and more. And then you get to the remix section, which I'll get to a little bit later. So you start off with, like, I think it's Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, and maybe one other. And the first few challenges are essentially going through and teaching you the basic mechanics of the game. So, learn to drop block, right?
Right.
But then it slowly ramps up to more actual challenges, although still in kind of the context of the game that they're from. So, some of the more difficult levels from Super Mario Brothers, or completing so many lines in Tetris in a certain amount of time. And as you progress through these challenges, you get stars, which unlocks more and more games. The entire list is Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong Jr., Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Mario Brothers, Metroid Punch-Out, Super Mario Brothers, The Lost Levels, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link. And where it gets more interesting is when you get to the remix section. So think of these as like the boss stages, all right? And they kind of throw some curveballs, like taking more advanced mechanics, or I should say, the later challenges go into those first. It's like the more advanced mechanics, like for Super Mario Brothers 2, learning how, like flying on Birdo's egg that she shoots in the boss fights, but using that as a mechanic to be able to cross large gaps, that sort of thing. Then you use those techniques that you learned in the remixes where things get different. Like, for example, playing Donkey Kong, the first level, the iconic first level of Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah.
As Link.
Oh.
Link cannot jump, so you have to try to avoid the barrels and use the hammers very strategically to be able to progress up. Some of the levels are mirrored, which is weird. Sometimes you'll get like a different character, like having Luigi show up with Luigi's kind of trademark slippery shoes but higher jump speed or higher jumps, You'll get sometimes where the levels will like flicker and disappear. The geometry is still there, but you can't see what you're doing. So it's like the first airship in Super Mario Brothers 3. Get to the end of the airship, but you only get to see the actual level geometry for a couple seconds every like 5 to 10 seconds, And for somebody that grew up with a majority of these games, I will say that I didn't play all these back in the day. It's breathes a little bit of a fresh life into them, but at the same time, the challenges are like the only time that the game feels very difficult,
Yeah.
Like, I used to play Punch-Out quite a bit, so I was able to get all the stars in the Punch-Out challenges pretty quickly. And there's no way to play the entire game, even though from the reviews and comments I've seen, all the game is present to the point that it's as faithful recreation that the 3DS can handle. Including like slow down whenever you have too many things on screen, like Super Mario Brothers 3. But there's no way to play the full game, right? Because that would be too much value.
Indeed.
The only like time you get to play the full game is there's a couple additional modes. There's the World Championship mode, which is using Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm blanking on the second game, and Dr. Mario, which was featured in the World Championships back in like 1992, somewhere in that range. And every so often you see like the golden cartridges floating around for absurd prices, especially in the current retro gaming market.
Yeah.
And there's also a Super Speed Brothers, where it's Super Mario Brothers 1, only played at double speed. Which really messes with you. Right?
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm not very good at Super Mario Brothers, like, original,
Yeah, there's a combination. All told, there's 169 challenges between the 2 remixes and the 16 different games. I'm a little hesitant to say that would be worth it at full price, assuming that you could even buy it these days, because it was a digital-only game on the 3DS, and there was a physical release for the Wii U. But first of all, it would require you to have a Wii U, and who has that, right?
I do. I have a Wii U.
Yeah, but you're weird.
I am weird. You got me. But I do have one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nice to be able to go back to these old games and see them changed up a little bit, It's kind of something I wish that Nintendo would do again. Although I know that there's no way that they would do that because, there's not the added value to it, right?
Yeah.
And, and this was released, 10 years ago now. But it does make me sad that outside of the handful of games that Nintendo constantly re-releases and pushes out on, Virtual Console or, Switch Online, that they kind of forget about a good chunk of these. Because Excite Bike, yeah, it hasn't seen a lot of stuff for it. The original Punch-Out, well, they can't even do the original Punch-Out because, Mike Tyson was in it. And, he had a slight rape conviction back in the day.
He did have that.
The original
Tyson.
Kid Icarus, which is a classic, but once again, that seems like a IP that Nintendo just kind of has forgotten about. Of course, Kirby's still going strong, but
Kirby's a special little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Blob, whatever Kirby is. I love Kirby.
Yeah, it looks like the last time Kid Icarus showed up was in 2012 as a third-person shooter. So,
I know Kid Icarus has been in a couple of Smash Brothers games.
Yeah, well, I wasn't counting that.
Yeah.
But, some of these games just are kind of falling by the wayside. And Nintendo is in this weird position of exploiting their past but not preserving it, where they'll constantly re-release, they'll constantly not do sales and try to keep their past titles as high as possible in price. But the moment a new console comes out, they'll just forget everything.
Yep.
And then drip feed once again. Or even back when they were doing the virtual console, it was like $5-10 a pop.
Yeah, I think it was five. I think it's $5 a pop. Although I don't remember.
I think there was some that was more expensive depending on what the game was.
Probably.
Well, it was also doing the Wii points back then, which if you could obtain Ultimate NES Remix or the NES remixes for Wii U, it is, I would say, very much worth checking out because it's that nostalgia trip. It's that back in the day, we didn't have these massive libraries, and it was very tough to come across new games. So you would have let's see if we get to into the level without getting hit, or play the level, or try to play the level backwards, or look in a mirror or something to add the extra challenge. And that feels like what this is, And while some games back in the day couldn't really support that, now that they are presented in this, it's more just it feels, like I said, a throwback in a good way.
Yeah.
Like there's Super Luigi Brothers levels where the entire game is mirrored. All right?
Good
Stuff
old
like that.
Luigi. I remember the year of Luigi from...
which amounted to pretty much nothing for Luigi.
Yeah.
Did anything release for Luigi in the year of Luigi?
Wasn't there a Luigi's Mansion game that came out in the year of Luigi? I don't remember. It's been... When was the year of Luigi?
It was 2014. Or 2013 going to 2014. It has an entire Wikipedia article, so... Right?
Yeah.
Let's see. A re-release of Luigi's Mansion and Super Luigi U, along with Mario Luigi Dream Team. Oh, and the last full game, Dr. Luigi, which I never even heard of.
Was Mario and Luigi Dream Team the one where they get eaten by Bowser?
I think so.
Good for Nintendo.
No,
getting a divorce early.
It's the one where Luigi's asleep and Mario's stuck in his dreams. So, a great year of Luigi. A re-release and essentially 2 skids of a game, right?
Yeah. Luigi, you're the real MVP.
I mean, let's put it this way. Mario's constantly getting into trouble. Luigi is kind of right on not being the one to charge in. He gets stuck with trying to deal with Ghost with a vacuum cleaner.
Luigi is the smarter brother.
Although, to be fair, it's easy to be the smarter brother when your brother's a bowl of pasta.
True.
But I mean, if you could obtain Ultimate NES Remix, I would say it's very worth checking out. especially if you're kind of curious about some of the old games but don't want to bother with the full thing, or even just I always wondered how some of them worked, because that's kind of also the other thing is that it teaches you the mechanics of the old games without having to resort to the manual, which is kind of sad that they have to spend so much time on that, huh?
Yeah.
But that's how it was back in the day. So I heard that you played for 40 nights or something.
Yeah. So I played Fortnite. My, as the listeners know, I have a child who is 9 years old, and the preceding events leading up to this story are what let him convince me to play. We've been having some issues with some of his friends at school that he plays games with, and so they are currently all blocked, and he is not allowed to play games with anymore while we work on sorting this situation out.
Dare I even ask?
It's a combination of online bullying and then some issues that these kids have. I've talked about stories here and there about kids who parrot what their parents say, and we live in the South.
Oh boy.
So, I'm not worried about them influencing him in that way. Like, we have lots of conversations, very open in this house, very supportive of, LGBTQ people and basic human rights. But still, it's like, let's just not, and also, bullying, online bullying. So we're talking to the school and, trying to figure out something that we can do. And we, removed and blocked them from his friends list. But he played Fortnite with them. And so he's been lonely and in need of friends to play games with. So he's been, slowly convincing me to be willing to play Fortnite with him. So I did. I played Fortnite with him yesterday. Was it yesterday? Was it Sunday? No, it was yesterday. Man, I never really understood Fortnite. Like, the basic gameplay principle, at least in the olden days, of, land on a map, pick up some equipment, kill other people. That's fine. I get that. But with Fortnite's building mechanics, I was never fast enough to really do it. I never understood, what the point was. It seemed more to me like a waste of time. If you're going to build something, build slow, build a little base. And, I think everyone listening to this podcast, and us as we record it, know that that's not how Fortnite turned out. There are these crazy people, whipping around, building all of these structures, towers and whatever, and, flying over the map, instantly. And it's my brain doesn't work like that. But not only did I not ever understand that, Fortnite, man, that's a whole other world at this point. Opening it, there are flashing lights and sounds and so many different properties that are involved in Fortnite now. It's Star Wars stuff and, in my inventory, Star Wars stuff and musicians that I kind of recognize, but I don't really know because, I'm not one of the kids these days. I'm old. So, these musicians are plastered on the, on the homepage, and Star Wars stuff and dances and battle passes and microtransactions, and it's never ending, and it's very loud and scary and confusing, and I just want to go back inside and get my hose out and force these kids off my lawn. And that's before you even start playing. So, the playing Fortnite, jumping in, kind of starts the same. You're in the battle bus, you fly over the map. The map looks nothing like how I remember it. It is also full of flashing strobe lights and new locales and weapons. And
they gotta prep them for Vegas,
You jump out of the plane and you pull your parachute, and for some reason mine's a TIE fighter. So it's really loud screaming TIE fighter sounds at me while I'm drifting slowly down to the ground, and I can't make it stop. And then I'm talking to my kid. I'm I don't know where I am or what's going on. I'm just going to follow you. And he's like, okay, great. Do this, do this, do this. Get this thing, grab this. And then you're going to use that to go over here. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm an old man, son. You're going to have to slow down. Then he explains to me, like, there's some kind of, like, rocket booster thing, and you can use it to jump and fly. And he's, like, bounding away. And I'm like, okay. I'm just going to pick up this. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at Fortnite. I'm like, listen, after we played a couple of rounds and we died very quickly, I'm like, okay, here's what you do, son. Stop trying to save me. Use me as a meat shield. I'll follow you. Use me as a meat shield. And then revive me after you kill the people who attacked us. And we did that for a while. It's like a fever dream. Playing Fortnite feels like a bad fever dream.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with Squid Game.
But it gets worse. At least it feels worse to me as an old man. So after a few rounds of like regular, air quotes, regular Fortnite, I'm like, what else is in this game, buddy? Like, I cannot keep up with you. Like, I can't keep playing this. Like, what other things are in Fortnite? He's like, well, we could do mini games. I'm like, okay, what are mini games? And he's like, well, I'll launch one. So he launches a mini game called Box PvP, which is just team deathmatch. Just regular old school, like, team deathmatch. And that I was good at, because it's on a level, like, it's in a map. Like, it's a small map, but it's, it uses, like, there are some things that change on it. It's got, like, these little, like, light bridge type things that every so often shift to form walls or platforms you can jump around on. So there's still some mobility aspect to it. But, like, I'm really good at that because it's just shooting. Like, everybody starts with the same weapons, and you're in an arena, and I knew where stuff was, and like, I won a few, and he's like, why are you so good at this, Dad, but so bad at playing the regular Battle Royale mode? And so I explained to him what I'm saying now. Like, listen, buddy, this is something that I'm familiar with and good at. I'm good at video games. Like, the ones that I grew up, the ones that I played and have built muscle memory around and sort of tactics and things, like, this is just like any other shooter that I played dozens of when I was, a teenager and in my early 20s. Like, that muscle memory's kicking in. Like, this makes sense. I have a shotgun, a rifle, a shotgun, a machine gun, and a rifle, and a map that I can, engage with in a way that makes sense. So we did that for a while, and I won a whole bunch of those. And then he was like, this is boring. You're winning too much. So then we went into, like, a custom mode and, like, built our own map and then, like, played with each other. And that was actually a lot of fun. We divided a level halfway down the middle, and we set a timer for half an hour, and we could build our side however we wanted, and then use, like, an auto weapon distribution thing. And then we had to land or, like, spawn on the other person's side and then fight each other. And that was good fun, but I mean, that's just me hanging out with my kid playing a video game. Like, that has, like, nothing specific to do with Fortnite. The only part of Fortnite that I ever liked was what they later changed it to be Save the World. Fortnite Save the World, which was the cooperative PvE shooter that had, like, base building and tower defense elements to it. And I found it buried within, like, the menu of, like, quote-unquote mini games that you could play. So I did tell my kid, I was like, listen, I am not going to play this with you very often. It's stressful to me to play this game, but we can try this mode, the one that I liked, see how you like it, and if he likes it, I would play that with him a lot, because I actually liked that mode. But yeah, Fortnite is just a hot mess. I understand that it's really popular, and the kids these days are not like us, and that's fine. I just, like, Fortnite has went from something that I, like, kind of get, like, I don't get it, because it's not the type of game that I want to play, but I kind of understand it, to, like, nope, this is just confusing and scary to me, and I don't like it, and I don't want it near me. So, yeah, Fortnite. That's how I feel about it.
No, tell me how you really feel.
The other game I played is, this one will be pretty quick, Jumbo Airport Story by Kairosoft. I've played several Kairosoft games and talked about them on the show before. I got 3 months of Google Play Pass, for free, air quotes for
Yeah,
free.
they're a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that pop up one time, and it felt like a trap.
I'm sure it's a trap. I'm sure I'll forget about it and I'll wind up paying for 1 month of it before I cancel. But, for 3 months, 4 months, I'll play some mobile games. I mean, I'm always on the lookout for finding some actual good mobile games. And a whole bunch of the Kairosoft games are on there. And so this is a relatively new one of theirs where that you're building and managing an airport. It's got very cute, cartoony graphics. It's not difficult per se. What you're trying to do is, I mean, you start with a very small kind of regional airport. You're trying to build it up and make ultimately an international airport, that you have your own fleet of planes that you fly rather than just contracting with the other airliners. And rather than strictly, making money and getting like a huge passenger count to come through, what you're trying to do is maximize the happiness of the customers that come through the airport by building like lots of shops and having good aesthetic design and a good layout to your airport, where that people can get around efficiently. And flights constantly come and go, and as you build up a passenger/customer satisfaction rating, your airport rating rises, which gives you access to more staff and better contracts, and eventually your own planes that you can build. And I'm pretty early on in the game. I've played it for a few hours this weekend while we were, while I was doing the conference thing, and then tootling around Nashville. And I played it, laying in bed as I wound down last night. That's probably what I'll play tonight while I wind down after we record, is Jumbo Airport Story. It's cute. It's got a really cutesy art style, a cute little soundtrack that unfortunately does get repetitive, but you can just turn that off. And the Kairosoft games, to my knowledge, they only have one game that's free to play. Like all of their games, they could truthfully monetize the hell out of. They could be really scummy about it, but they don't. You pay $3, $4, $5 for it, and then you've got the game and you play it. There are places where I could see them monetizing them, but they never have. And even the one free to play game that they do have, which is Air Force Unite or something like that, which is like a turn-based strategy game where you have a fleet of fighters and fight mystical creatures using JRPG mechanics. Even that wasn't monetized to hell and back. They're just a little mobile developer that makes pretty decent cutesy games. So Jumbo Airport Story
that actually sells them and sells the entire thing.
Yeah, Jumbo Airport Story is a good, cute game. Depending on whether or not I air quotes beat it, because I think you can win it. It seems like it's got a new game plus mode and some challenges, but I think it's a game you can actually win. So if I manage to not beat it by the time my game play pass runs out, I might actually buy it. I own 4 or 5 Kairosoft games, so they're a good cute little mobile developer. 2 thumbs up. So yeah, that's all the games that I played this past week.
Well, speaking of cute things,
yeah, I'm pulling up the topics list. Our first news story of the night: Japan is getting gaming cup Noodle, designed for gamers, contains caffeine and more.
Gotta admit, I kind of put this on the thing as a joke, but you weren't really talking about this.
I really like it. They're cute. I want them. I want to import them and try them.
I think it's also the fact that it's more of a generic gaming thing instead of tying into a very particular thing. Because in the US, it's more like the Diablo 4 Cubs at KFC for Diablo loot, or the Hot Pockets with the Call of Duty codes, or Modern Warfare, or whatever the hell they're running this year.
Yeah.
Although that's not to say Japan doesn't have those as well, but it's more partially, I think it's just the fact that they have RGB on the thing. You know, they have the rainbow RGB thing going on, but also the fact that it doesn't feel gross. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like they're trying to tie in. You know, I don't want to say energy boosting because it's first of all it's cup noodle. You know, but also at least in the U.S. energy boosting kind of draws this correlation with energy drinks and like 4-hour energy. Zap you with like a day's worth of caffeine in 10 seconds, and it has this very kind of off connotation. And don't get me wrong, they do have caffeine in this as well, which it feels a little weird to have it in cup noodle and cup curry, but it's not just that, right?
Yeah. So the flavors are, let's see, energy garlic and black pepper soba, which is the one that's got caffeine in it.
Well, they both have caffeine in it.
They both have caffeine in it? Okay. Actually, the full name, Nissan Gaming Cup Noodle, Energy Garlic and Black Pepper Soba, and Nissan Gaming Curry Meshi, Energy Ginger Keema Curry.
Yeah, it looks like they both have caffeine of some sort, because the other one says it has caffeine arginine, which is a protein that helps you metabolize proteins. Or build body proteins, I should say. It's amino acid.
Yeah.
And essentially the boost of vitamin B.
They released in Japan on Monday, September the 18th, so in about 2 weeks. And once they release, I'm seriously going to see if I can find them and import them. Like, I mean, I'm not going to pay like $100 for 2-cup noodle, but if I could get like a pack, like, even if it's just a 2-pack, one of each, I'd pay $20 or $25 for that as like just a little weird experience. I have no idea what it costs to import snacks from other countries. I've never done it before. But, whatever is like kind of reasonable for that kind of thing, like I'd be willing to pay that for just like a cute little experience with cup noodle.
Well, I was bringing up one of my import stores. I don't think they'll have that, but it's actually surprisingly cheap. But you usually have to buy, a few things.
I mean, I'd spend $50 or $100 to get like a whole box of stuff, like I'd try a bunch of stuff,
Yeah, it's usually the shipping is where they get you.
Yeah, international shipping is really expensive, which
Mhm.
makes sense, but
like this one that popped up, it looks like it's pretty close to what I would expect to pay at like a Japanese market. Okay, well, here's not this particular cup noodle, but a Japanese flavor of cup noodle is $3 here.
Yeah.
But the question is the shipping, right? Let's put it this way. They put their free shipping at $199. That should tell you something, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to spend $200.
Here's another one that's more like just generic. Let's go to the Kit Kats. 13. I think this is US dollars. $13 a bag, which they do offer free shipping, so that's probably a lot cheaper than what you'd get it otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you hunted around, you'd be able to find it for an okay price, Like here, no, that's not cup noodle, but this other one that I've looked at before. They have free shipping. They have packs of 5 ramen for $23.
Yeah.
Which is 5 servings, which is a lot more than what I'd pay at the local Asian market. But all right, but it's also getting shipped halfway across the world. I would actually keep an eye on Amazon.
Yeah,
right,
I will. I'm going to.
Because there's somebody that's going to buy like a pallet of them.
Yep. And like I said, I'd pay a little extra for it. And I'm
sure
try it.
I'm sure that this is also a case of, we only see some of the, highlights mixed with the grass is always greener on the other side. But it does seem like, international snacks are a lot better than what we get here.
I've talked about this podcast before. I listened to a couple of times. It's called "Let's Talk About Snacks," and they over the last year have gotten a bit bigger and more popular, and have started doing snack exchanges with their viewers who live in other countries. And they talk about different snacks and how the qualities compare, and they'll get like little sort of listener or like messages from the people that they do snack exchanges with and compare notes. And yeah, it is a little bit of the grass is always greener kind of thing, because for the most part, they say that American snacks and candies are like really unique and interesting. And we're like, well, that's just like the shit that we've got. But that's how they feel about their own snacks for the most part. It's like, well, this is the shit we've got in our country that we're going to send you.
I mean, the thing is that also, one of the YouTube channels I watch is Food Wars, where they'll do U.S. Fast food versus they've done India, China, Japanese, UK, and overall it's been. They're doing right now what they're calling the foreign exchange, where the U.S. guy is trying the British fast food and vice versa.
Yeah,
and part of it is just taste. It blew his mind that the I think Domino's was the last one they did. Domino's had several pizzas that had corn on it.
Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, I guess that's just like a regional, just a different, regional food variation. It does seem really weird and interesting, though.
I've done corn on pizza before for taco pizza.
I've never had corn on pizza.
It wasn't heavy on corn. It was just enough to like feel like the tortilla, or get the corn taste.
Yeah, I mean, I'd try it. I'm not opposed. I've just never had it. Never thought about it. Never seen it. It was also,
like I said, in the middle of taco pizza. So it had a base of salsa, then ground beef, cheddar cheese and nacho cheese. A little bit of corn, jalapeno peppers, black olives. It's one Anita turned to me and said, "You're making this again sometime." So there was that.
Well, that's good, but yeah, just a little regional differences in taste and all that jazz, I suppose. But yeah, I'm gonna try and import these. I mean, I'm not gonna pay something outrageous. Like I've got more money than I used to, but I don't have that kind of money. I can't spend $200 on like 6-cup noodle, Like I can't do that. But
I mean, this is also the same company that did several Final Fantasy cup noodles, including sponsoring like full-on DLC for Final Fantasy 15.
Oh yeah, I remember that. But yeah, I'd probably be willing to pay $50 or $60. Or maybe, pay up to $100 and do like a big sort of box import and get a bunch of different stuff.
Well, make sure to get some Kit Kats.
I'm not the biggest fan of Kit Kats. I know Japan has got lots of weird and interesting Kit Kat flavors. I don't hate Kit Kats, but
the thing is that it's not Kit Kats, it's different flavors of them.
Yeah. But yeah,
there's this whole odd to us culture about them,
Yeah, but I'm gonna try and import it, and if I do, I'll see about shipping you some, depending on how many / how much I'm able to get.
Well,
we could do a live, we could do a tasting, an on-air tasting of the soba cup noodle.
As long as there's no coconut in the curry, then I would have to get Anita on and have her be very grumpy with me.
I see. But yeah, all right, we talked about that for way longer than I thought that we would.
Yeah, I mean, really, right?
Although we mostly just wound up talking about food, but let's move on to our next news.
Guys talking about food? Shocking.
Hell yeah. So yeah, our next news topic of the night, Embracer shuts down Saints Row developer Volition.
Yeah, Embracer Group is basically cutting losses after a failed business dealing, and Volition. I, I'm not sure if they're the first in the shopping block, but they're the most notable.
Yeah.
And it's sad because Volition has had a very long run of games. It's just they've stumbled in their last several big releases. I would actually include Get Out of Hell in that. Get Out of Hell, it was kind of polarizing because you didn't play as the boss, and it was kind of short for what it was. They had Agents of Mayhem, which was wholly mismarketed as a hero shooter when it wasn't.
Yep.
And then they had the total abomination of what they rebooted Saints Row into, and basically went on social media yelling at people when they complained.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a good look whenever your last big release has just north of 1,000 reviews on Steam. I mean, that's bad because you have to buy the game in order to leave a review. And I know, people that leave reviews are, in the minority, obviously, but that's not a lot of sales.
Yeah. I think a game has to be particularly good or bad, or with like review bombing, like do something like heinous to get like a huge amount of reviews. But still, like, yeah, for a game and series as big as Saints Row, that's not a lot.
Yeah, let's put it this way. The all-time peak for Saints Row was just north of 4,000 players. Let's just, for the fun of it.
When you say Saints Row, you mean Saints Row remake, reboot, whatever. That's not a remake.
The all-time peak for Saints Row the Third is 34,254. And Saints Row 4 is 42,000. That's rather telling, huh?
Yeah.
Although Saints Row also has the kind of dishonor on Steam of being a Epic exclusive for a while. So it definitely ate into sales whenever bad reviews came out about it. At least for the Steam numbers.
Yeah. I mean, Saints Row is a big part of Volition's game development history, but they have made other games over the decades. I mean, they were a studio that was around for 30 years. The games that I first played of theirs was actually Red Faction, but those aren't the only games that they made. I mean, going all the way back to the 90s, they did Descent and Descent 2, Descent Free Space, and then Free Space 2, Summoner 2, the Red Faction series. They did a weird Punisher spin-off game after that awkward like early 2000s movie. All the Saints Row stuff. They had a whole bunch of canceled games, canceled in development. But I mean, they've got a long history of game development with titles that I think a lot of people recognize from over the decades. It's just, I mean, they
did Free Space as well. I'm not sure you mentioned it.
I did.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
I was finding a website yelling at me for having a pop-up blocker on.
Right. How dare you protect your PC from garbage pop-ups and potential viruses and even more like data harvesting. How dare you? But, on the one hand, like it is a true statement in terms of like, it happens. Sometimes companies get shut down, no matter how storied their history is or how memorable of things that they did in a particular market or field. Like it does happen, but it still sucks. Like it sucks that, they got bought, and Embracer being this like huge, conglomerate corporation is, just shutting them down because they fucked up. Like it sucks. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, and supposedly they were working on a remaster / patch of Saints Row 2 to make it actually playable on modern PCs.
Yeah.
And that's been like an ongoing project for years, and That's not going to see light of day now. I mean, there are some fan stuff out there to make it work, but obviously it's not going to be at the level of what they would have been able to put out.
Yeah. Well, it's less likely. I mean, there can be some really amazing fan projects out there.
Yeah, but they have the intimate knowledge of how the game actually works.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Volition survived THQ, so there is that also as well. So it's kind of also a little bit of that legacy going on, or going away as well.
Yeah. I mean, it all just sucks.
It sucks that it came down to this, and that their final legacy is going to be remembered for essentially rebranding Saints Row into a bunch of college students trying to repay their student loans. And no, I'm not joking. That's the story of the reboot.
And that, honestly, that could be okay. Like, it could have been.
It would have been a lot more acceptable if they didn't try to bring it to Saints Row. If they tried to make it, a similar type of game, but, even in the Saints Row universe,
Well, I mean, you said, I've never played Saints Row 4, but you said that in Saints Row 4, like, it ends with them getting a time machine, right?
Yeah.
So what they could have done is that, like, they use the time machine and they go back in time, and it's like, oh, we're, here in college. Like, this is how we got our start with the Saints. We're trying to repay our student debt, and it became this.
Yeah, but
let's use all of our knowledge to do something with it,
Yeah, but they deliberately cut off, that storyline and was doing essentially a hard reset of the universe. Let's put it this way. Saints Row 4 is narrated by Agatha Christie because they pulled her into the future to narrate it.
I see. Yeah, I mean, you can do so much with time travel. And, like, if you are the type of series or the type of thing that, like, doesn't give a shit and is not trying to do, like, explain your time travel, and is like, this is just a plot device for us to do shenanigans. Like, Saints Row, I feel like, could have been a series that could have handled that in a fun and interesting way.
It wasn't even just a time machine. They had a spaceship time machine. So they could have done alien worlds as well. And
yeah.
It's so frustrating to see them essentially do a hard quit on that storyline. Do Agents of Mayhem, which I understand that they wanted to do something different and get away from the Saints Row formula, because they had essentially done the same map twice. And they honestly kind of did it a third time with Agents of Mayhem, sort of, from what I understand. But they mismarketed that game so much. They made it, even now, looking at the Steam page, if I didn't know better, I would say that's just a multiplayer hero shooter in the kin of Overwatch. But it's not. It's more like Crackdown. But they don't market it like that, so many people looked at that page and saw, oh, this looks like even shittier Overwatch, and didn't play it.
Yeah, you could have done a lot with it, and they didn't, and that sucks. I don't want to necessarily relitigate, coulda, shoulda, woulda, armchair development kind of thing. I don't necessarily want to go down that entire road, like, because off of just this news article, like.
Yeah, especially since, they particularly said that they wanted to get away from the Saints Row formula. And they felt like it was getting too politically incorrect. But, at that point, just leave it be, come back to it later.
Yeah, I do understand.
Go ahead.
As a creator, like, certainly on a vastly different scale, but with the stories that I write and tell for, my tabletop, crews, like, I do understand, like, something can get really big and can get away from you, and it's like, oh, we've got a time machine and a spaceship. Well, shit, what do we do with this now? Like, I do understand, like, a story getting away from you, but, like, what you do in those situations is like, you start something new, and, like, you save it to come back later. You take time to develop something with that story, because, like, in the back of my mind, It's like, oh, they got a time travel spaceship. They could like go and drop people off, and you could do a gangster themed, like a 1920s gangster themed Saints Row, and Saints Row in space, and they do Saints Row stuff with aliens, and like et cetera, et cetera. Like you could come up with stories for that, but it's like you just take a break from it and you start a new series, or go do revisit one of your other game series.
Yeah, which they attempted with Agents of Mayhem to do something different, but they still brought Johnny Gad in, so they also tied it to Saints Row in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't do Red Faction for 5 or 10 years, depending on how you view remasters. They left a lot of stuff on the table. It makes me wonder where those IPs are going to go. I fully expect Saints Row to pop up again at some point.
Yeah.
Because minus the hiccup there, it was a pretty popular series for a while. They have Red Faction, which they've left on the table. They have Free Space. They have the old Descent license. They have Homefront, which those had some issues of their own, but it's something that can be built off of. They have the history there and some interesting places that developers can build off of. I fully expect to see these IPs licensed out and sent out.
Yeah. Looks like Volition was like they did get ownership back of the Red Faction IP. So, I suppose Embracer now owns that.
Oh boy, right?
Yeah. But like I'm just like kind of going through the rabbit hole. Like I'm looking to see like, oh, were there any Red Faction games that were announced at one point, but they were canceled or were kind of left in limbo around like COVID times when those began?
Yeah, because that's also the other thing is that Saints Row released right around COVID, the reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2022. So a couple of years post COVID. So all right, it definitely was affected by it, and development was likely drawn out because of it.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder just how much if COVID didn't hit, if so many eggs would have been in one basket with it, right?
Yeah.
Because while it did, remote work does save a lot on property, it also does slow down some development and some work. And also it makes it harder to collaborate. And that's what the AAA games are. They're a giant collaboration.
Sometimes, between dozens or hundreds of people working on a project. So, well, I mean, we'll see what happens with these various IPs. I wish everybody at the company the best. Good luck with their job searches or, potential career changes depending on what they want to get into or are tired of. But it sucks.
Maybe we'll see more Red Faction now because, all right, if they just got it back recently.
Yeah.
I mean, the last one was Armageddon, or the last
2011.
Last proper one, I should say. Not counting the remastered edition in 2018.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, you picked this next topic. I don't know a lot about Dota 2, so...
I don't know a lot about Dota 2 either. It's more interesting to me to see a company coming down on smurfing accounts. So, Valve is coming for Dota 2 smurf accounts and the main accounts behind them. So, smurfing, for those who don't know, is the concept of a high-level player building a new account or a new save file, essentially, and going into lower-ranked matches. So, if... let's take my Squid Game, for example. If I was, super hardcore, amazing player, I'm in the X rank, I'm, doing well, but I want to beat up some lower or squids. I buy a new copy of the game and build a new file to take me all the way back to C rank and just demolish.
Yeah.
It's really bad for free-to-play games because, it's easy to just build a new account. You're not, spending more cash on it, most likely. You're just going into smash face. So seeing Valve coming after the Smurf accounts is an interesting tactic. Basically, they're trying to clean up some of the matchmaking by going after people that are, screwing it up. And, as much as neither of us really care about Dota 2, there is a very strong skill element there where lesser skilled players are going to have a very bad time coming up against people that are ranked extremely highly just because of the sheer mechanics of the game. The map awareness, knowing how to build their characters, knowing certain tricks for different characters, the different matchups. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff to consider. And seeing Valve banning 90,000 accounts and wipe out their associated main accounts as well is, as far as I know, unheard of in pretty much all of gaming.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm here for it. I've always, for as long as I've played video games, hated this type of griefing behavior.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it is.
I had a friend, acquaintance, whatever, in high school. Somebody I played video games with in high school. And we would play Halo a lot. Halo 2 and Halo 3. And Halo 3 did some stuff to try to fix this, but in Halo 2, you basically just had an overall rank for playing online. And the more games you played and the better you did, your rank would go, up or down, and that would be your skill rank, and you would matchmake with people around that skill rank. And he would, every so often, purposefully derank his account by essentially, just going AFK in matches or committing suicide a whole bunch in matches. And that process sucked because you were at best not helping your team, or at worst griefing your own team by going negatives in the KDR, or purposely killing your teammates so that you would wind up getting booted, which would have a huge penalty to your skill rating. And then he would go seal clubbing with the lower ranked players who were either newer or just weren't as good. So yeah, it's the same thing. And I used to always I would get mad at him about that. He'd be like, "Oh, it's just a video game. Who gives a shit?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you're ruining it for other people. You're ruining it for me right now. I can't play with you because I'm not having a good time because you're just killing yourself and blowing up our teammates." I've always hated that behavior. I hate griefing behaviors. And there are plenty of people who love it.
Yeah,
psychos.
I remember.
That's what they are. They're psychotic.
Yeah, I remember in Team Fortress 2, there was the concept of the sandwich heavy, where some people thought it was hilarious to run around as the heavy, who is big, slow, heavy guy with a minigun, and one of his optional secondary weapons was a sandwich that could heal him. Well, you could also throw it for teammates, but sandwich heavies would throw it at the enemy team, who could also pick it up. And it worked as a medium health pack. So they would throw it at an enemy that's in the middle of a firefight and possibly cost their team a member a death because suddenly the person that they're fighting gets healed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's griefing behavior in every single game to some degree. But seeing smurfing being singled out on this is quite surprising. And the fact that, here's also the thing, is that Valve is one of the few companies out there that would have enough back-end information to know definitively that it's a single person,
Yeah.
Because you can make the argument for, League of Legends and such, and in console shooters, where it could be, somebody on a different account, or, like a brother or something, But Valve could see the accounts log in and out very easily, and see the credit card information, see everything a lot more intimately.
Yeah. I mean, I play, I've talked about this a few weeks now. I play War Thunder a lot now because of my kid.
Mm-hmm.
But War Thunder, like in every recent patch that's been coming out, they've been like, here are the steps we're taking to try to reduce griefing behaviors and team killing and botting on accounts and, et cetera, et cetera. And they're developing all these tools and things to try to stop people from doing this kind of stuff. Because like we just said, griefing exists in every game. In War Thunder, there is a lot of simple team killing, but also doing things like teaming up with a buddy to bring a very low ranked vehicle into a very high ranked game, and things like that. Like you can report people for that now, and there are consequences. Like it's kind of the whole like offense versus defense war, the gun versus the armor thing. Yeah. It's like you're always going to be chasing it. People will always find new ways to grieve. But if you want your game's community to remain healthy and open and interesting to both to new players and to keep returning players around, like, if you're like me, a middle-aged guy who goes to work every day and comes home and only plays video games, a couple hours a day at most, and you want to just relax and play a game, like, if you hop into a match and, get team killed or, you're the seal that gets clubbed because somebody's doing this type of behavior, like, it sucks. And if that happens enough times, you're not likely to keep playing that game. And they want you to stick around to keep the player base up and to feed them money. Mm-hmm. So if you want a game, any multiplayer game community to be healthy and, successful, you have to engage in a behavior as a company, as a developer, that tries to fight back and tamp down this behavior as much as possible. And so, like, seeing Valve doing this, like, good job. Way to go, Valve. I approve of this one. You guys don't always get it right, but this one, I think this is right. Good call. Also, I like the term smurfing. I genuinely don't think I've ever heard it before.
It's a pretty old term. It comes from the old Warcraft games.
I didn't play the old Warcraft games all that much.
You seriously never heard the term smurfing?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay, you're going to love the history of this one then. It's either Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3. There were people that were engaging in this behavior of purposely de-ranking themselves. And it was they were on the 2v2 map mode.
Yeah.
And they were named Papa Smurf and Smurfette. And no, I'm not shitting you.
That's cute.
They purposely de-ranked themselves to be able to go seal clubbing. And so they became so notorious that it was known as smurfing when you came up against them. And the term stuck. Obviously, you haven't heard it, so...
Nope.
I mean, it's known well enough in online communities.
I've just missed it, I guess. I didn't play the old Warcraft games. I have played them, but I definitely didn't play them when they were new. I never played them online.
But you may not have played a lot of games that had ranked modes.
Yeah.
See, I've played some games that had ranked modes that the term pops up more often there. Because if you're just going online in general matchmaking, it doesn't really exist without some sort of ranking system built in. And it may have not just been that popular in Halo, or as a term.
Yeah. There haven't been too many ranked modes that I've played in, and most of the ones I did play in were consoles, and the console and the PC circles used to be much more separated than they are now. I'm pretty sure. I mean, having, cross-platform multiplayer was not a thing for the longest time. And even now, I would say it's only really starting to become the norm because of certain games. Mm-hmm. As much as I bitch about it, like Fortnite has really pushed cross-platform multiplayer a lot. And it's not the only game, I know, but it's a really big one that has pushed cross-platform multiplayer forward in the last few years. But anyways, yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything else I don't think I have anything else to say about what Valve is doing to the Smurfs.
Well, how about what Valve is doing to the gamepads?
All right.
So, one last topic. Steam will tell you if your game supports DualShock or DualSense controllers now. And I really don't see any downsides to this. It's basically going in and having more options for developers to highlight. We support DualShock or DualSense controllers natively compared to just seeing them as default controller and having, press button 3, right?
Yeah.
Xbox controllers still are, kind of the gold standard for PC. Although, you can play with anything on a PC. I've seen Twitch streamers playing games with, bananas.
Yeah. Yes. They did that for what? Dark Souls? I mean, he's done other games. The one that I remember is he played Dark Souls or maybe Bloodborne using a banana.
A group of bananas.
Yeah.
But the X input that the Xbox uses, which is all the whole AB the general architecture that has moved away from press button 3, wherever that is, right? And standardized the controls across console and PC. Has made it where it's a lot easier to use a Xbox controller. But there's still, according to Valve, 40% of players using something other than an Xbox Series controller. So the DualShock, which is what I actually use, although I use it with the emulator, so it's emulating the Xbox controller. Which I know I'm playing a DualShock 4 controller, making it look like an Xbox 360 controller because it's easier that way. Right?
Yeah.
There's people that uses Pro controllers from Nintendo or just the Joy-Cons, that there's support for that now, along with just the myriad of other options out there. So having the ability to just glance at a store page and see, oh well, this is going to see my DualShock controller as a DualShock controller, or even better, the DualSense, be able to pick up the additional functionality of it and the extra functionality, I believe, in the triggers.
Yeah, don't they have 2-stage triggers?
Yeah, I think so. So there's that, and along with possibly having it where it could use the touchpad for more than just controlling the mouse.
Yeah.
According to this, according to Valve, it says 27% of all controllers on Steam are PlayStation controllers. Woo!
So slightly more than a quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, still, it says approximately 69%. Nice. Are Xbox, one of the versions of Xbox controller. And there's a bunch of them. But, I mean, still, so you got 2/3, more or less, using Xbox controllers, a quarter using PlayStation controllers, and then your remaining, what is that? 10 to 15% using other stuff. So, like you said, Nintendo Pro controllers, Joy-Cons, various. Huh?
Well, the problem with the numbers is they would see anything with using X input most likely as an Xbox controller.
That makes sense. So then what would the other stuff be? Joysticks? Flight sticks?
Joysticks, flight sticks. Nintendo would show up as their own thing. Because, okay, here's the thing. It's that if I'm understanding these numbers correctly, they're looking for the X input and counting that as an Xbox controller of some sort. So all the third-party controllers that are using essentially Xbox guts are still counted in that grouping. The DualShock uses direct input, as does the Nintendo Switch controllers, unless you have drivers installed to make them appear as something else, which is what I do. So I would probably be viewed as having both an Xbox and a PlayStation controller hooked up whenever the hardware survey pops up, because of how my system is set up. So these numbers are skewed, and I'm not saying that there's a ton of people out there with my similar setup, but I do think there's a few.
Yeah.
And just the way that they're saying that Xbox across all series. Well, you could go on Amazon and look at Xbox control or just PC controllers, and pretty much anything that shows as plug and play as a Xbox controller, even the Voye PC controller that I'm looking here, the wired controller, it looks like it's using the X input.
Well, and also Xbox controller across all series. I mean, there are 6 Xbox One versions of the controller, plus the Xbox 360 controllers still work if you have them, and the little adapter that lets you plug them into a PC. Then there's the Xbox Series Pro controllers. Like, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, well, I'm looking here at Old Turtle Beach one for the Series X, Series S, Xbox One Windows. That claims to have audio enhancements because it's Turtle Beach, but it's essentially a cheaper Xbox controller, right?
Yeah.
So the numbers are likely a bit skewed. I would love to know the proper ones, but I don't think there's any real way to be able to tell. Ooh, I wonder what the Luna controller would actually show up as. Would it show up as a other, or?
I don't know. I didn't use one. Did it use
it's
X
using
input?
I don't know if it's using X input. It's using the Xbox layout. I was browsing through controllers and it popped up.
Yeah, I feel like Xbox really won the layout. I mean, the Sony PlayStation controller layout is sort of the other main competitor, but I feel like most people just copied the Xbox controller.
I mean, Nintendo essentially did.
Yeah.
Although the hardest thing in gaming is to solve for X. All 3 controllers, the X button is in completely different places.
True. Very true.
Yeah, so take that, Elon Musk.
Fucking idiot, Elon Musk. What a piece of shit.
Uh-oh. Did he do something else, or?
Nah, he's just a piece of shit. I mean, I'm sure he did something else that
I did see him talking about the woke virus eating up his daughter. So, but I didn't click on it because I don't want to encourage more coverage of him.
Yeah.
Which I know we're doing that right now, but
I don't know anything about any woke virus eating up his daughter. I want to look into that. Not right now, but maybe later.
I mean, it's sort of like, certain politicians that shouldn't have coverage of them 24/7, but get it because they say stupid shit and do stupid shit. So the 24-hour news cycle follows them around and reports on their stupid shit, so they do more stupid shit. So they get more and more power, and they're dumb.
Yep. Insert prominent right-wing politician here, because there's a bunch of them that fit that bill. You may have your own personal bone to pick with one of them. I know I do. Several of them. But anyways. Yeah. This is good. I don't think there's any downside to this. Just giving people more information so that they can make better choices is never a bad thing. If you've only got maybe you're, who I see this being the most helpful for are people who were PlayStation gamers who have recently got into PC gaming. Maybe because Sony has started putting a lot of their games on PC now, or maybe
or made their stuff more expensive.
Yeah, or maybe they've just seen the light, PC gaming, Master Race, and all that. But regardless, they've started playing PC and they've got a PlayStation controller that they want to use, but they're not. And I don't mean this in that they're dumb. They just don't know that you can do what you're doing. Set up a controller to where that it, instead of using direct input, then starts reading as X input. They don't know that. And they don't, they're not interested in learning, or, maybe they don't even know that they can learn to do that. They're just not a super tech savvy person. They just want to play games and they've got their PlayStation controller and they want to use it. This is perfect for that person. And I think there's a lot more people like that than, that are coming to PC now. And there's this interesting phenomenon, we've talked about it before, the generation that grows up after the thing has become common does not know how to engage or utilize it in the way that the generation that was alive when the thing started to become common. You see it with cars and all kinds of appliances and now technology. Like, many of the kids these days are nowhere near as tech savvy as you and I are, because they have lived in a world that, the use of technology has been standard and is, easily replaceable and disposable. And, this is not to comment on whether or not I think that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just to say, like, they didn't need to learn how to fix that stuff, whereas you and I did. And so that has made us more sort of inherently tech savvy. And the kids these days are, they're in their late teens, their early 20s. Like, they've got their first jobs or, some kind of income. They're in college. Maybe they got those leftover student loans. They buy a PC. They had a PlayStation. They're good to go. So
right.
This is unequivocally a good thing. Way to go, Valve.
Mm-hmm.
Valve
did two good ones.
But they don't know how to count to 3, so this is it.
Yeah. No more good ones.
All right.
So I'm assuming that you don't want to hit Discovery Queue.
No, it is 10 after 12, and that 12 being midnight.
Yeah, it's getting to be pumpkin time. We did have a community corner that we neglected to watch the video of, so we'll tack it on to next week.
Yep, we're really bad about watching videos, guys. We're sorry. You can slap us on the wrist later.
You just want to get smacked somewhere else.
I mean, you can smack my ass and call me Sally. It's been so bad. Anyways.
Bad touch.
I'm not even coming after you right now. That's for later.
Bad touch.
Anyways, yeah, we neglected to watch the video. We'll get it for next time.
Yeah, which honestly we would have probably been skipping it for next week anyway because it's after midnight.
Yep. So hey, Rage, how can people get in touch with us if they want to?
Or you can drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com, all the way up there at the top. You can email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us, which we're still calling it tweets. It's not excretions. VGL Podcast on the Bluebird until it crashes and burns.
Indeed. Which
honestly seems like any week now, right?
It does. It really does feel like it's on the horizon. I don't know how they keep going.
Delay.
Yeah. What about them socials of yours, Rage? Why don't you hit people with them?
Oh, I've been Caffeine Rage. You could contact me on the Bluebird while it is limping along on one wing. Gaming with CR on there, or you could contact me directly on Steam, Caffeine Rage on Steam. And you've been?
I've been Jared. You can find me on the site formerly known as Twitter, at JMA4707. I am still waiting on an invite for Blue Sky. If anybody listening has one, I'd love one. There's also something called Tribes that I'm looking into. I haven't set up my account there yet, but maybe I'll have one there.
Oh, there's a game that never really got its rebirth, huh?
No, I did play Tribes many years ago. But anyways, so yeah, you can find me there. Also, there's stuff that occasionally goes up on twitch.tv/runicarts, although haven't played or streamed anything there in a hot minute, and we're probably not going to for the near future. This will probably be the last time I mention it for a while. Life changes for me and mostly the players, just less streaming, less regular full gaming sessions with one of my tabletop crews. And then you can find me, of course, on our Discord. You can find me on Steam, jarthur4707.
Which brings us back up to the top. Once again, you can contact us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics. Tweet them to us, vglpodcast, or drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. And if you wish to spread the love, you can find us on your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is Kevin McLeod. Well, we should cover the Patreon first. I got ahead of myself. Our lovely patrons made this madness possible. You can find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Our intro and outro music is on the gram like him, McLeod. You can find his work over at incompetech.com.
And, as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.